Started. All right. So welcome Algebra 2. Today's April 2nd. What I did want to do before officially getting started is talking about a few class rules. So just make sure to be respectful of others. I do have the annotation and chat features. I know we kind of discussed that last time, but I do want you guys to go ahead and use it so we can be interactive, but again, only when you're asked. So if I ask you to use the annotation, if I ask you to use the chat, please go ahead and do that, but otherwise do not use them. Otherwise, I will have to turn them off. Next thing, if you have a question and if you have your video on, make sure to raise your hand or also type the question in the chat box. I can hear Miss Ross, so that way if I can't see your chat, I can't see your comment, hopefully Miss Ross can let me know without stating any student names, because again, I am recording, so I want to make sure to, that we don't mention anyone just for issues of privacy. And I noticed Ms. Ross did state, please hold questions to the end of class, or you can also chat your questions. Those are two good options. And always just do your best. I know that these are new circumstances. It's a new situation, a new environment. We're still getting to know it just like you guys are. So are we as teachers, just getting to learn the systems. So just do the best you can. A few tips, make sure to have a notebook or paper or just something for notes. Pencils, obviously, in order to write your notes. But if you absolutely can't or don't have those things, then I will be putting up this recording on Schoology for you to be able to watch again. If possible, find some quiet space. I know if you have a small, if you live in a small place, that might be difficult. I live in a small place. It can be very challenging at times. So just try to do your best. But that's the reason also I have it on mute, so that if you can't, then at least it won't be too much of a distraction, hopefully. But again, just try your best to find some quiet space. Go ahead and ask questions if you do have questions. Make sure they are appropriate. Make sure they do have to do with math as much as possible. And then attend office hours. Yesterday, one of you did attend office hours, and I did appreciate that because you were able to ask any questions you might have during that time. All right, stress check. So this is the time for you to be able to annotate if you know how to annotate, and I know some of you guys do in your options maybe. And let me know in the chat box if it's not on there. But let me stop recording actually to learn. Fortunately for today, let's keep on going. Sometimes we will be having time to talk about how our bucket is being filled, and I'll go into more detail on that on a day when we start exactly on time. Just want to make sure that you guys are finding things to make you happy. And yes, I saw a question, do we have to take notes? For the math portion, I would take notes, not for this part. But anytime we are talking about math, I would just take notes, so that way when it comes to your due now, exit tickets, and homework assignments, you have something to look back on, okay? So this slide, we're gonna kind of keep on going, at least for this session today. The objectives for today, Thursday, April 2nd, are that you will use function notation to evaluate expressions. Oh, I see that I'm kind of breaking up a little. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, so today I'll try to use a lot of the notes because again, I am breaking up. I'll try to fix it for the next session. Let me also type that in the notes so you can see that. But we will use function notation to evaluate expressions. And I want to quickly review the do now from the last session. I saw most of you turned that in already. Oh, but this, I put the do now for geometry. So we're going to have to kind of go ahead and skip that because that is the wrong do now. But I know for the do now for this period, we were talking about function notation. So I'll make sure to review that for our next class. I'll review the do now for April 2nd, and then I'll also review the do now for the next class. Sorry. Okay, a few things, and I'll only highlight the things that I would suggest you take notes on, so that way you're not taking notes on this whole document. But function notation notes. So the equation y equals, this is an example, 9 minus 4x represents a function. You can use the letter f to name this function, and then use function notation to express it. You just replace the y with fx. So you read f of x as f of x. I would write this down. Again, any part that I highlight, which means that the output value of the function f for the input value x. And I'll review this. I know we kind of talked about it last time, but this is pretty much just stating that when you see that f parentheses x, it is pronounced f of x. And then I know before we started doing online sessions, when we were still in person, we talked about functions and how for every input there should be one output when it's a function. So we talked about that example about the ATM machine. You put in your card, what do you get? You get money. Or the vending machine, you put in money and then you get an item. So that is what they mean by functions. You put in one thing, so one input, and you get one output. Again, when you see f parentheses x, that's pronounced f of x. So when you hear me say f of a number or f of x, it means that there's that parentheses symbol. So let's look at this example. Find f of 2. So notice I said f of 2, because again, it's the f parentheses 2. What output do you get when you input 2? So this is what we did last time in our last session on Tuesday, and all of you guys here today are the ones who were here on Tuesday. We took the f of 2, we took this 2, and we just placed it in that equation that they gave us. So f of 2, so anytime you see an x, we replaced it with the number 2. But this time, the only difference this time is that we actually went ahead and solved it. What they did here, and I know they don't show you step by step, but we'll go over it step by step. It's they go f of 2. Hold on, sorry, I have two participants waiting. Okay, welcome. So if we go into so f of 2 is equal to, now we leave the 9 as it is, and then 4 times 2 is 8. So then we have 9 minus 8 is equal to 1. That's how they got that. I'll go into this in a little bit more detail on the next slide. All right, so let's look at example 1. This is again what we reviewed on Tuesday, but this time we're actually going to solve for it. So given f of x equals 7x minus 1, find f of negative 2. So what's our first step? Our first step is we put f, since in place of our x is negative 2. Anytime we see an x, we're placing a negative 2. And I see an x, so I'm putting negative 2. And this time, last time that was enough. This time, for this session, I actually want you to go ahead and solve it. How do we do that? Well, we leave this the same. There's nothing we can do with it. F of negative 2. Bring down the equal sign. 7 times negative 2 is negative 14. You leave the negative 1. Again, bring this down, f of negative 2. And then we know that negative 14 minus 1, if I owe $14 and I owe $1, I owe a total of $15, if we're talking about money. But negative 14 minus 1 is equal to negative 15. We're doing a few examples, and then I'll give you guys some time to practice using the annotation tool in a little bit. And then I'll also unmute you all so that way we can hopefully practice it, and I'll stop the recording as well. So let's look at this example number 2. So given g of x is equal to is equal to x squared minus 4, find g of negative 5. So again, I take the original equation, but this time in place of x, I'm putting -5. So anytime I see an X, I'm putting -5. So G, an X, so I put -5 is equal to, I see another X, so I put -5, but everything else stays the same. That's what we did last time. All you did is plug it in. This time we actually solve for it. So G of -5 is equal to -5 squared means -5 times -5, which is 25 minus 4. And then G of -5, 25 minus 4 is equal to 21. That is your answer. Okay, let's practice this next one. Again, I look at what do they, okay, so this one's actually a little bit different because it tells me h of x. So before we even get into that example, I want us to practice examples 1 and 2. Let me go ahead and stop the recording. You do have a chance to practice. If you are watching this after the live session, make sure to pause the video so you can go ahead and practice numbers 1 and 2 with us. Resume recording. All right, so if you guys had a chance to practice this at home, hopefully you got these responses from the practice. We're gonna go ahead and just go to our next steps. Our next steps and everything we worked on today should be enough for you to be able to do any assignments that I gave you. So next steps after class today, go ahead and complete the exit ticket for today's class. Complete the homework assignment. I saw that some of you guys already did it. If you are not happy with your score, go ahead and retake it because again, for all you're doing now is an exit tickets and homework assignments, you're able to retake them as many times as you need to. So again, if you're not happy with your grade, go ahead and retake it and I'll grade that again. And then we are going into spring break. So starting today, so at the end of today, or well, starting tomorrow, technically, we're on spring break. So I will not be seeing you until April 14th. So before then, make sure to complete the next due now for that class. Once it is up, it is currently not up yet, but it will be pretty soon. So as soon as that is up, go ahead and complete that. So again, you have 3 things you need to work on. You need to work on the exit ticket for this class, for today's class, the homework assignment, and the due now for the next class. And make sure to catch up on any work that you have yet to complete. Okay? So if you have any questions, I'll give you guys, we have about a couple of minutes. Let me go ahead and stop this recording.